Most people believe strength means responding immediately. They answer every message, defend every insult, and rush to explain themselves whenever tension appears. Modern culture praises constant accessibility as kindness, loyalty, and emotional openness. Yet the Stoics warn that endless availability slowly erodes inner authority. A person who reacts to everything becomes controlled by everything. Their mood changes with every opinion, delay, inconvenience, or misunderstanding. What appears compassionate on the surface often becomes a hidden form of dependence beneath it. The ancient Stoics understood something modern society frequently forgets. Power is not loud. It is measured by the distance between impulse and response. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind can remain untouched unless it chooses disturbance. That insight carries enormous psychological weight. Every emotional storm begins with interpretation before it becomes suffering. Traffic, criticism, rejection, and disappointment are events. The meaning we attach to them determines whether they become prisons or teachers. Think about the ocean during a violent storm. Waves crash against the surface with chaos and noise. Yet deep beneath the turbulence, the water remains still. Stoicism teaches us to live from that deeper level of consciousness rather than from the surface of emotional reaction. This philosophy does not encourage emotional suppression or cold indifference. It teaches disciplined awareness. The goal is not to feel less. The goal is to become less governed by uncontrolled feeling. Today we will explore 5 Stoic principles that transform anger and frustration into self-command. These ideas are rooted in the writings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, while also reflecting insights confirmed by modern psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy. Each principle reveals how emotional resilience is cultivated through practice rather than talent. By the end of this journey, you may begin to see emotional control not as restriction, but as liberation. Secret number 1. Pause and reflect in moments of anger. The human nervous system seeks immediate release. Someone interrupts us, dismisses our effort, or speaks unfairly, and the body instantly prepares for confrontation. Heart rate increases. Muscles tighten. Attention narrows. Neuroscientists describe this as an automatic survival response. Yet the Stoics recognized the same mechanism long before modern laboratories existed. They understood that unexamined emotion quickly becomes self-destruction. Seneca warned that anger is temporary madness because it overwhelms reason and shrinks perspective. A single impulsive reaction can damage years of trust, respect, and discipline. This is why the Stoic pause is not weakness. It is strategic restraint. Between stimulus and response exists a brief psychological opening where freedom can still operate. Within that space, we decide whether instinct or wisdom will guide the next action. Imagine a spark landing on dry grass. If ignored immediately, the spark becomes wildfire. Emotions operate similarly. Most suffering intensifies because people feed reactions with instant expression. They rehearse insults repeatedly, argue internally, and construct stories about betrayal or disrespect. The Stoic interruption prevents this expansion before it consumes clarity. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy mirrors this principle closely. Therapists encourage patients to identify automatic thoughts before accepting them as truth. The Stoics practiced this mentally every day. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events themselves, but by their judgments about those events. This insight remains one of the most psychologically advanced observations in ancient philosophy. Pausing also creates empathy. When emotion dominates, the mind becomes self-centered and defensive. Reflection widens perception. Perhaps the rude coworker is exhausted. Perhaps the loved one speaking harshly is carrying hidden fear or grief. Reflection transforms reaction into understanding. Most importantly, the pause restores sovereignty over identity. Anyone can lose control for a moment. Stoic discipline asks a harder question. Who are you when pressure arrives? Are you merely a mirror reflecting surrounding chaos? Or are you capable of remaining internally ordered while the external world becomes disordered? The quality of a person is revealed most clearly during emotional tension, not during comfort. Secret number 2. Focus on what is within your control. Epictetus divided life into 2 categories: what belongs to us and what is not. Our choices, values, intentions, and judgments remain within our authority. Reputation, external events, other people's opinions, and unpredictable outcomes do not. This distinction became the foundation of Stoic resilience, because frustration often grows from trying to dominate what was never ours to command. Consider how much emotional energy disappears every day through resistance toward uncontrollable circumstances. People become furious at traffic, anxious about approval, bitter about the past, and exhausted by the behavior of others. Yet none of these reactions improve reality. They merely deepen internal suffering. The Stoics believed that peace begins when attention returns inward. This does not mean becoming passive or detached from responsibility. It means directing effort toward meaningful influence rather than emotional waste. A sailor cannot control the storm, but a sailor can still adjust the sails. That is the essence of Stoic action. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that external events possess no moral power on their own. Only our response determines whether hardship degrades or strengthens character. This perspective transforms adversity into training. Difficult co-workers become opportunities for patience. Delays become exercises in composure. Failure becomes instruction rather than humiliation. Modern psychology supports this principle strongly. Research on emotional regulation consistently shows that individuals who focus on controllable behaviors experience lower stress and greater resilience. When people obsess over uncertainty, the brain interprets life as unstable and threatening. When attention returns to intentional action, emotional stability increases. There is also dignity in accepting limitation. Many people exhaust themselves performing for validation because they believe approval guarantees worth. Stoicism rejects this entirely. Your value cannot depend upon public opinion because public opinion changes constantly. A crowd that praises today may condemn tomorrow. Anchoring identity to unstable judgment creates permanent insecurity. True self-respect emerges when actions align with principles regardless of applause. The Stoic does not seek to dominate others emotionally. The Stoic seeks mastery over personal conduct. That mastery produces quiet confidence because it cannot be taken away by criticism, rejection, or misunderstanding. When you release the obsession with controlling everything outside yourself, emotional energy returns. Attention sharpens. Decisions become calmer. Life stops feeling like constant combat. You begin acting from intention rather than desperation, and that shift changes every relationship you enter. Secret number 3. Practice acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood as surrender, but Stoicism defines it differently. Acceptance means seeing reality clearly before attempting to respond wisely. Resistance to reality creates unnecessary suffering because denial consumes energy without changing circumstances. The Stoics encouraged radical honesty about the present moment precisely because clarity produces strength. Imagine trying to swim against a powerful river while insisting the current should not exist. Exhaustion becomes inevitable. Yet, when the swimmer understands the direction of the current, movement becomes intelligent rather than frantic. Acceptance operates in the same way psychologically. Life includes disappointment, uncertainty, aging, conflict, and loss. No philosophy can erase these realities. The Stoics never promised permanent comfort. Instead, they taught that suffering becomes lighter when we stop demanding that existence obey personal preference. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reflected on impermanence to remind himself that change governs every human experience. This principle connects deeply with modern therapeutic approaches. Acceptance and commitment therapy, influenced partly by Stoic ideas, teaches people to stop fighting unavoidable emotional experiences. Pain intensifies when individuals attach shame, resistance, or catastrophic meaning to temporary discomfort. Acceptance interrupts that cycle. Acceptance also protects relationships. Many conflicts continue because both people refuse to acknowledge reality honestly. One person demands perfection. Another refuses accountability. Both remain trapped in fantasy instead of engaging with truth. Stoicism encourages directness without cruelty. Reality may feel uncomfortable initially, but illusion eventually becomes destructive. Importantly, acceptance does not eliminate ambition. A Stoic can pursue goals passionately while still understanding that outcomes remain uncertain. This balance creates emotional steadiness. Effort matters deeply, yet identity does not collapse when plans fail. Such resilience allows consistent growth because fear of failure no longer controls action. There is tremendous peace in recognizing that not every difficulty requires emotional warfare. Some situations require patience. Others require adaptation. Others require departure. Wisdom lies in discerning which response serves the moment best. Acceptance sharpens that discernment by removing denial. The person who practices acceptance becomes psychologically lighter. They stop carrying imaginary battles against the past. They stop demanding guarantees from an uncertain future. They become capable of meeting life directly, without theatrical resistance. That quiet realism is one of the strongest forms of courage. Secret number 4. Choose empathy. Anger narrows perception until another human being becomes an obstacle rather than a person. Stoicism counters this instinct through empathy. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that people act according to what they believe is right, even when their actions appear ignorant or harmful. Understanding this does not excuse destructive behavior, but it prevents hatred from poisoning the mind. Empathy requires intellectual humility. Every person carries invisible struggles, private fears, and emotional wounds hidden beneath ordinary behavior. The impatient stranger may be grieving. The defensive friend may feel ashamed. The hostile coworker may fear inadequacy. When we remember this complexity, emotional reactions soften naturally. Modern psychology confirms that empathy reduces aggression because perspective-taking interrupts automatic hostility. When individuals imagine another person's emotional reality, the brain becomes less reactive and more reflective. The Stoics practiced this mentally long before neuroscience described the mechanism scientifically. Empathy also strengthens communication. Most arguments escalate because each side fights to be understood while refusing to understand the other. Stoicism reverses that pattern. Listening becomes more important than winning. Clarity becomes more important than domination. However, empathy must never become self-erasure. Stoic compassion includes boundaries. Understanding another person does not require tolerating abuse or abandoning self-respect. Healthy emotional boundaries protect dignity while preserving humanity. This balance separates Stoic discipline from emotional coldness. Carl Jung explored a similar idea through the concept of the shadow. Human beings often reject uncomfortable traits within themselves, then unconsciously project those traits onto others. A person ashamed of weakness may attack vulnerability in everyone around them. Someone terrified of rejection may become desperate for approval. Without self-awareness, unresolved inner conflict shapes external relationships constantly. Stoic reflection exposes these hidden patterns. Instead of blaming the world automatically, we examine our own emotional reactions honestly. Why does criticism wound so deeply? Why does disrespect create overwhelming rage? Often, the answer reveals insecurity rather than injustice. Recognizing this truth can feel uncomfortable, but it creates enormous freedom. The integrated individual no longer seeks constant validation because self-worth is no longer outsourced entirely to public approval. Emotional maturity develops when identity becomes rooted in values rather than praise. At that point, relationships become healthier because interaction is no longer driven by desperation or fear. Secret number 5. Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude appears simple, yet it radically changes emotional perception. Anger trains the mind to focus exclusively on absence, injustice, and disappointment. Gratitude restores attention to what still exists. Seneca advised reflecting frequently on life's blessings because the human mind adapts quickly to comfort and begins treating miracles as ordinary expectations. The Stoics practiced negative visualization partly for this reason. They imagined losing possessions, status, health, or relationships to remember their temporary nature. This exercise was not pessimistic. It was designed to deepen appreciation. When people remember impermanence, ordinary moments regain emotional richness. Modern research consistently links gratitude with improved psychological well-being, stronger relationships, and lower levels of stress. Attention shapes emotional experience. A mind trained to recognize meaning and beauty becomes more resilient during difficulty. Gratitude also interrupts entitlement. Many frustrations emerge because people unconsciously believe life owes them convenience, fairness, or constant success. Stoicism rejects that assumption completely. Existence offers opportunities, not guarantees. Recognizing this creates humility and emotional balance. Even during painful seasons, gratitude remains possible. A difficult chapter may still contain friendship, learning, health, shelter, or moments of peace. Gratitude does not deny suffering. It prevents suffering from becoming the entire story. As this journey closes, remember that Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming internally grounded. Through reflection, self-control, acceptance, empathy, and gratitude, emotional turbulence loses its power to dominate your life. The world will continue presenting delays, criticism, uncertainty, and disappointment. Yet your inner condition does not need to rise and fall with every external event. The Stoics understood that peace is built through daily practice, not sudden transformation. Every pause before anger, every act of patience, and every moment of conscious gratitude strengthens character quietly over time. Begin with one principle today. Practice it consistently. Watch how your relationships, decisions, and inner world begin changing gradually. If this philosophy resonated with you, continue exploring these timeless teachings. And remember that true strength is not measured by how loudly you react, but by how deeply you remain centered when life becomes difficult. Most people spend years searching for peace in external achievements, relationships, or recognition, only to discover that emotional chaos follows them everywhere they go. Stoicism reverses that search completely. It teaches that calm is not found by controlling the world, but by disciplining perception, intention, and response. Every difficult moment becomes an invitation to practice awareness instead of impulsiveness. Over time, this practice creates a rare form of confidence. The confidence of knowing that circumstances may shake the surface of your life without ever controlling the foundation beneath it. That is a quiet power the Stoics dedicated their lives to cultivating with unwavering daily discipline. If this video gave you clarity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on this journey of Stoic self-mastery. Every week, we explore powerful lessons on discipline, emotional control, and inner peace to help you grow stronger in a world full of chaos.